How do you have small things create massive impacts? Well, on today's Beautiful Mind Show, that's what we're all about. Let's do it. Your mind is a beautiful thing, but if left unattended, it can get ugly real quick. If you're not constantly curating the content your mind consumes on a daily basis, then your surroundings will dictate your daily thoughts, habits, behaviors, and actions. This show has only one goal: to leave your mind more beautiful than it was when you arrived. Welcome to the Beautiful Mind Show. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jason Everett, and welcome to the Beautiful Mind Show. This topic has been big, and Holly and I, by the way, what's up, Holly? Welcome to the show today.
What's up? Thanks for having me, Jason.
Always good to have you on today. This topic about taking small things and having a massive impact in your life has been like haunting my brain the last couple of days. So I just want to find out, if you're watching the show right now or you're listening along, have you ever done something that at the moment you thought it was a really small thing, but it had a massive impact in your future? Do me a favor and say small in the chat if you've had a small thing make a massive impact in your reality. I'm going to start with a story that, Holly, you've probably heard me say once or twice before, but if you're watching online with me on whatever channel you're on, whether on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Carrier Pigeon, whatever the thing is you're on, I don't know what you're on, but you may have heard this story. I was driving my car one time, listening to a personal development, probably CD. I'll call it a CD. We're going to date myself. A CD, personal development CD at the time. And I was challenged to do something that I could do in the next 1 minute. It was like, what's something you could do in the next 1 minute that you could set in motion, something that would have a big impact? And I was like, I don't know. I beat myself up, Holly. I don't know about you. I beat myself up, and as soon as something sounds like I'm like, well, it's going to require that I spend 5 hours researching, and then I'm going to have to call 15 people, and then I have to build a igloo, and I start making this big deal out of whatever it is, right? Because I'm like, I got to hire somebody. Well, I got to write this job description. And I make this huge project, right? But if you can shut up that little voice, if you can shut it up and just go okay, boil it down. What's one little tiny thing I can do? So anyway, I'm listening to this personal development CD. I'm in the car, and they're like, just do one thing you do in the next 30 seconds. And I probably told the story a million times. But the goal was, I have always wanted to be a big brother through Big Brothers Big Sisters. You've heard me talk about this before, Holly, right?
Yep.
I wanted to be a big brother through Big Brother Big Sisters. And I was like, I don't even know what the process is like. They probably have a screening process, and you probably have to not be an idiot to do this and all these other things, right? And I remember picking up the phone and just going, I'm just going to call. I looked up the number, Big Brothers Big Sisters. I called, and I said, and I got the voicemail. And I was like, hey, it's Jason. I'd like to be a big brother. I don't know how this works. Somebody call me back. And now here I am. It's almost been almost 20 years now that I've been a big brother. And, it changed my life forever. Being able to do that, because that one simple voicemail that took a minute turned into years and years of mentoring my little brother and doing some really incredible things that just changed my life, that led to us doing High Octane. It led to us doing all these crazy things. And it led to all these crazy reality shifting things for me, and prepared me to be a parent. It just did all these things. And so what I want you to think about for a second, as you're watching the show or listening to today's show, is that the distance between where you are right now and the next big thing in your life is probably one small pinky twitch away from happening.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Did you see that?
Totally.
Did you see Kung Fu Panda, Holly, where they do skadoosh?
Skadoosh, yeah.
Skadoosh, right? And this massive thing happened. So, Holly, talk to me about, what are some things that you've seen in your life that were a very small thing at the time that turned into a massive impact? Can you think of some things like that for you?
For sure. And it's kind of crazy, because this one, it doesn't seem like it would be much, but it was not hitting the snooze button. So the minute that my alarm, because I used to not be that. I used to be the person that was like, oh, I'm a nighttime person. And then I would have kids.
That's
and
what
then
you
I would
said?
run. Yeah. That's what I said to myself. And then I had kids. My mornings were kind of crazy. But the minute that I decided not to hit the snooze button anymore, and consciously said, I'm not going to do that, my whole mornings changed. Everything changed. I had more energy. It was I started to be a better parent in the morning. I started to be a better partner in the morning. I got to
Mm,
work early, so I was there to greet my team. So yeah, just
yeah.
not hitting snooze. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
it's
even a
interesting.
30-second thing.
I've moved out of the don't hit snooze because that was a big one for me too. And now I just don't
Yeah.
set an alarm every day. I don't set an alarm. I know that
Mm.
sounds really strange, but for the last 2 years, I've been getting up almost every day at 5 a.m. And I would probably say it was a good 90 days. I had my alarm set at 5 a.m. and now I get up anywhere between 5 and 5:30 every single day. Occasionally, I'll sleep in a little bit past that, but usually it's about 5 o'clock. I'll get up. My body gets up around 5:10, and I'm like ready for it, no matter what time I went to
Yep.
sleep the night before. And it is a really interesting experience when you can just have something going on. Somebody said my snooze is going on at the office and I fake it. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the challenges, right? Is that when you can just change one thing around you that seems like it's not that big of a deal, not hitting the snooze button, or like, I had I had changed some of my meal plans, some of my habits, and some of those things over the years, and it changed how I ate my food. I think sometimes it's just making small decisions every single day. I think we overinflate and we blow up the things that would make the biggest impact in our day. Right? Is
Right.
like, like
Yeah.
I'll give you another small one. And again, I think sometimes it seems big, but it seems big later, but it was small at the time, was just giving up soda. Like, and when I say giving up soda, it doesn't mean that I've never had a soda again. That's not what it means. In the last month, I probably had a soda or two. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's not like I'm not like in AA for Sodas Anonymous or something, you know what I mean? Or SA, Sodas
Yeah.
Anonymous.
Yeah.
But I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop drinking soda. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to do it. And I'll tell you what ended up happening that actually got me there was I went on a backpacking trip. Like, this is going to sound really weird. I went on a backpacking trip, and you don't want to take a lot of things with you on a backpacking trip, right? You want to reduce your load of everything, including taking liquids. And at the time, I was going with a friend of mine, Greg and Chantel, and my wife Charity. Went hiking in the Trinity Alps here in California, which is unbelievable. If I can pull a picture up of it while I'm talking to you guys, I will. But we went backpacking in the Trinity Alps. And I was one of those people who like always had to have some flavor in my water. I had to drink a
Yeah.
soda, or it had to be juice, or like I was like, water, like just plain water, like doesn't really do it unless I'm like dying of thirst. Like, that was me. If you can relate, let me know in the chat. But that was me. And so we did this hike in the Trinity Alps. And I remember as we were hiking along, I think I brought some like, those like tear off packets you could add to your water, because we had like, water packs. And then we'd stop at rivers and we had to like pump the water, put it in our pack. And like I ran out of packs and like ran out of like the little, water additive or whatever I was putting in the very first like couple of hours of this hike. We're stopping to refill water all the time. And I remember like drinking water, because you needed to drink water through that whole time. And like after the end of that first day, I'm like, I'm actually okay. Like I totally am happy drinking water. And it changed I think my physiology and my biochemistry inside my body literally changed to say, okay, I don't need to drink just other stuff. It's totally okay to
Right.
drink water. By the way, I pulled up this picture. Producer Bob, I don't know if you can hook me up with this screen share here, but dude, check out this photo. I don't know if you can see it because it's not as big as I want it to be, but can you guys see this thing? I don't know if you guys can see this. Yeah, check that thing out. Do you see where
Oh.
this place is? This place is so money. I love going to this place, Trinity Alps. It's just gorgeous. There's like snow on the mountains. It's like pristine lake in the middle of nowhere in California, up in Northern California. And it's just awesome. So thanks, Bob, for putting that up there. But it's a gorgeous trip. And again, the little thing was I said yes to my friend who said, do you want to go backpacking? And I was like, yeah, sounds good. That was a little thing. And then it turned into me like being okay, just regular drinking water, quitting soda, it's like the impact of that multiplies out, and it becomes this amplification, right? It's like this little tiny thing that turns into this spectacular journey that you didn't know you were going to go on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, for those of you guys that are listening on with me right now, what's one small thing, one small decision, a date you decided to go on, a place you decided to work, a unexpected detour in a road trip? What was something that you decided to do one day that was seemingly insignificant at the time, but it created a huge ripple in your future?
It's funny that you say that. It kind of reminds me of when I met my husband, because I went to a bar with somebody and I'd never been to that bar and I never went there again. Like, it was that one
Like, it was your
time.
one time ever.
Yep, yep. It was, one time and met him there and, said yes, and just it was crazy to think about that because, like I said, it wasn't somewhere that I normally go, wasn't my group of people,
Yeah.
wasn't somebody I typically even went out with. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to say this too, like to go a little bit further and a little bit deeper, because I mean, a lot of people I think are like, yeah, Jason, easy for you to say. You went backpacking one time and now you don't drink soda. Whoop-de-doo, right? But what that did is it really changed my perspective on my lifestyle, changed a lot of different
Mm,
perspectives. And I think sometimes the universe is actually, in my opinion, the universe, God, the great spirit, like I think that the universe is constantly guiding your decisions and pushing you to action. And there's a simple decision the universe places in front of you. I really do think that is, right? Like
mm,
I really do think that you get the simple decision placed in front of you, and the universe or God, however you choose to look at it, is waiting for you to make that simple decision that will change everything in your life. Like, I honestly believe that. And I think that so many times that decision that's placed in front of this, that you're like,
yeah,
okay, um, it's just like when you go to lunch, it's like, are you going to order the salad
mhm,
or are you ordering the burger? Like, that might be a small thing, but it's like, the waitress is going to ask you, like, do you want dessert tonight? You're going to say like, do I watch some more Netflix or do I spend another 10, 15 minutes tucking my kid in because they'll remember it? Like these small,
yeah.
simple things that happen in your life, right? Make such a massive difference in your reality. I like somebody in the chat here. I can't see who it is, by the way, but I just saw the one right before that, Bob. Yeah, somebody said, I just want to check this Jason dude out, right? Like, thanks for that, by the way. They're like, somebody said you should meet Jason. It'll change everything. And then all of a sudden, I don't know who that is because it just says Facebook user on there. But like, maybe you're one of those people like Holly that like we went and flew
Yeah.
stunt planes together, right? Like, I remember, and Holly, that was for you. Like, I remember like
Oh,
Lindsay Haney was like, you should
mhm,
probably meet Jason. And then all of a sudden, we're flying stunt planes over Lake Tahoe and shooting each other down in
yeah,
the aerial sky combat. I mean, whatever,
yeah,
right?
yep,
It's
yeah.
just one little thing. Cindy on here. What's up, Cindy, by the way? Cindy said, I decided to do a free lunch to check into little voicemail street. I don't know what that is, but ended up doing it. Oh, maybe little voice mastery.
Oh,
Is that what it was?
yep.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
probably what she was
yeah,
talking about. But yeah,
yeah,
doing little voice mastery. Like I just went to a lunch. It's like, it's simple. It's you go to a lunch,
yeah,
you find something out and all of a sudden it changes everything for you, right? It's like, what have you been poked to do? And remember, the universe will continue to poke you over and
mm,
over and over again. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the universe is going to say, look, hey, I really want to get you in a good place, but you have to make the decision. And I feel like
mhm,
sometimes it's like we have this delusion about reality that says, nah, it has to be bigger than that. It
yeah,
has to be more significant than that. Like, have you ever seen that thing, Holly, where there's like a meme or a little comic about it, where it's like the universe is trying to get your attention, right? They're like, I don't know if
yeah,
you've seen this meme, maybe you've seen it before, but it's like there's a person who's in a flood and they're sitting on top of a roof, and it's like, and somebody
oh,
comes by in a boat. Have you seen this? Somebody comes by in a
yes,
boat and they're like,
yes,
hey, we're here to save you, and the person on the roof is like, oh no, don't worry, I'm praying to God. God is gonna save me. And the person's like, okay, like cool. And they
yep,
leave in their little rowboat. And then like the
mhm,
search and rescue team comes by and they're like, hey, we're here to save you. We're ready to get you. And they're like, no, God's got it. Like it's under control. I'm praying to God and I'm totally good. And the search and rescue team leaves, and then the person ends up drowning in the river, and they get to heaven, and they're like, God, like what happened? Like I was waiting for you to save me. And they're like, I sent you a rowboat, I sent you a search and rescue team. Like, what the hell, man? What do you want me to do? And I think sometimes we get so caught up that we're waiting for like the bigger, grander gesture
yeah,
of something that's like that meets our expectations or that is a bigger deal or whatever, when it's just like, hey, maybe you need to take that person to lunch today. Maybe you just need to say
mhm,
yes to that opportunity. Maybe like I just got a text from somebody the other day inviting me to this like leadership and personal development thing. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. Like, no big deal. It's done. All I have to do is say yes. Easy. Somebody
mhm,
pokes you. And I think this is one other thing I want to say about this, Holly, and you can throw in on this too. I think a lot of times people invite me to do cool things, or they poke. And this is my experience. And I'm a yes person.
yeah,
Like when somebody says yes, if it's like slightly in my vein, I'm like, yes, I'm there, right? But I ask people to do things all the time, as you know, Holly, that are kind
yes,
of crazy. And like I invited a couple people, and people were like, I don't know, I'm kind of busy right now, I'm not really sure. And I'm like, It's so weird to me to be like, okay, like it really is going to be life-changing, but I don't force anybody, right? I just do the poking. I poke and I tap and I whatever, and the right people will show up to have their lives changed forever, no matter what that is, whether it's high octane or working together or doing something. And it usually makes a significant difference. Yeah. What's been your experience on that?
Well, besides my relationship with you, because you poke all the time. You're like, hey, let's try this. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, Holly, why don't you jump on a stage? Hey, Holly,
yeah.
Why don't you do this? Yeah.
But you have to have it. And like Amy is another good friend of ours. She does the same thing. She's like, hey, let's go do this. And then afterwards we're like, oh, that was amazing. That was crazy. Right. But she's like, did you die? I mean, because sometimes it's, doing a Tough Mudder or, going hiking or doing some of that crazy stuff. I think everybody needs to have that friend, and you have to put yourself out of that comfort zone and just know I'm going to grow when I'm out of my comfort zone.
Totally. And I think that's part of it, right? Is like saying yes to more. And I think this is like, if you got some value out of being able to be on this show with us today and talk about it, is how can you say yes? So here's the deal. I want you to say yes to more things. We're going to talk about how you can say yes to more things and how you can start changing your life. How do you squash that little voice that gets in the way? And let's see if we can get rid of it. We got to take a short break, and we'll be right back all after this break. Let's do it. Would you like to have an even more beautiful mind? Well, we'd like you to have one, and we actually created a 7-day Beautiful Minds Challenge, which is a little bit of a choose your own adventure challenge for just 7 days. And I really think you can do anything for 7 days. It's definitely not easy, but it will be simple for you to get access to it. All you have to do is comment anywhere on this video or send me a message on social media that says 7-day, and I'll send you immediate access to not only our Beautiful Minds Facebook group, but also our Beautiful Minds Challenge, where you can go through 3 different areas: your mental health, your emotional health, and your physical health, and get challenges in each of those areas that'll help you get a handle on each of those areas inside your life to give you more control over what you want to do every single day. So do me a favor, comment 7-day or send me a message on any social media, and I'll make sure I give you access to our exclusive community group as well as access to the challenge. Thanks so much, and now back to the show. We're talking about little things that change your life, that have massive impacts and massive ripples. We're talking about little things. It could be a phone call. It could be, Cindy, I got you. I got it. Was Little Voice Master. Don't you worry. I knew what you were talking about. I typo all the time. It's all good. I type fast. And by the way, just during that little commercial break, we were talking about the 7-day challenge. And thanks, Sue, for saying 7-day in the chat. Is if you want to really change something, like here's an exact example. Like we said, hey, you want to see if 7 days can change your life? Take our free 7-day Little Voice Mastery Challenge, right? Like, or our 7-day Beautiful Minds Challenge that will retune your little voice to actually create some massive impact in the future. And who knows, maybe one tip out of that 7 days makes a massive difference in your life, is forever changed because you said yes to something. And I think what I wanted to talk about in the second half of the podcast today was really figuring out, how do we talk ourselves out of everything? Because this is the problem that I think happens, Holly. Most people talk themselves out of something before they've even heard the answer.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
If it costs money, I'm going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Or they have the limit of money. No. Yeah.
Right.
Like it has to be a certain limit.
Yeah, Kiyosaki said something to me. Robert Kiyosaki said something a long time ago. He's famous for saying this, but he said it to me personally. And as we were talking about it, he said, look, the question should always be not I can't. It should always be how can I?
Yeah.
Right. It should always be how can I? So like when it's, like I remember, I'll give you another example. I remember I went to a party and somebody was saying that they went to Tanzania, Africa on a safari. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. And like, I listened to their whole story and I'm like, God, that would be like a once in a lifetime trip. And all I did was I said, can you send me the information on who you went with? That's all I said. Can you send me the information? And then they sent me the information and I was like, oh, cool. I'll call them. And I said, can you send me a brochure? And then they sent me the brochure and I'm freaking like a year later, I'm in Tanzania on this safari looking at like rhinos and cheetahs and, elephants and lions and all this stuff. And it was just because I said, could you send me the brochure? Could I take a look at it? Like it didn't need to be a big thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I was thinking about the trip the other day because it was not a cheap trip, right? Like it was like $6,000-$7,000 a person to go on that trip. Now, if I would have known it was $7,000 to go on the trip and all these other things, I'd be like, I don't know, it kind of sounds crazy and it costs money and I probably shouldn't go. And can I afford to go on that trip? And what's going, like, and who knows, for the amount of money I was making at that time, maybe I shouldn't have gone on that trip. But that trip changed my life. It changed my life. It changed me. And I didn't realize that I was going to like go to these orphanages and understand more about, and like, you probably heard me talk about Tanzania and like what my experience was like dozens and dozens of times as I'm on stage, and like that trip forever changed who I was. And if I would have talked myself out of it or known everything, if I would have known all the things that would have happened, I probably would have said no.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I started with just one little bit of information. I started with one yes that turned into another maybes, and then some more yeses and some more yeses. And all of a sudden, blah, 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 like everything starts to unwrap around you. So how do you get yourself out of the way? Number one, I think what you got to do to get yourself out of the way is you've got to prevent yourself from going into a tailspin about what ifs. Right? Yeah. You got to, number one, you got to take yourself out of that tailspin. If you notice you are in a tailspin of what ifs, you just got to say stop. You got to say stop. You got to say stop and just go, what's the next easiest thing I can do? Like, that's it. What's the next easiest thing I can do? And you just take the next step, the next step, the next step, the next step. And it'll make a huge difference if you catch yourself before you're in the tailspin. Yeah. Tip number two. The other thing that, go ahead, Holly. You got another one?
Yeah. So what I was thinking about when you're talking about that is like the car in motion. Like we talk about having a vehicle in motion. And, I grew up in rural Wisconsin. And so we all learned how to drive a stick. But we'd always have to like, one of our cars inadvertently would not be able to start. So we'd have to push it to pop the clutch, clearly. And so that's what that always reminds me of, is because like when you're pushing the car to move forward, you can pop the clutch and you can keep going. So when you're making you have to be in motion. You have to just say yes and do something to get yourself in motion.
Yeah. And I think being in motion is a really important part of it. So number one, you got to take yourself out of the what if tailspin and imagining a whole bunch of different futures that exist. Number one. Number two is you do have to just make a decision to get in motion. I'll give you that one on number two for sure, Holly, is you have to be in motion because you can't create any massive action without any motion. Like sitting on your couch thinking about that book you want to write, or sitting on your couch thinking about that business you want to open, or sitting around dwelling on it is not going to get you there. Take some action. And like, I've done so many things. Now that I think about it, like exploring more in my own brain on this show has been really helpful for me. So I hope the show was good for you. It's been good for me. But like, I remember I was looking into buying the ski resort. Like this recently came up. I was like, look, I really was looking at it, and I was like, you know what? Let me just look up the tax records. Let me do this. And all of a sudden I'm on the phone with people who run some incredible resorts, and all of a sudden 2 more ski resorts came up, and I called them, and like all of a sudden it was like one phone call catapulted everything going forward. And like, even though I haven't bought a ski resort, or I don't know that I will anytime soon, but I'd like to, is that it turned into these amazing impacts, right? These amazing things that once I declared it, once I put it in motion, once I did. So number one, you gotta get yourself out of the what if tailspin. Number two, you gotta take some action because it'll get you moving. And then number three, you gotta like surrender to the journey. You got to surrender to what happens around you and be okay that there's going to be some good things and some bad things. Because if you get derailed on one bad thing that you're like, well, that happened and it wasn't what it was supposed to be, and that stops you, then you're not going to see the lesson. So not only you got to commit to the journey, but the next thing on that list, number 4, is you've got to learn the lesson you're supposed to learn from what's in front of you. The lesson you got to learn from what's in front of you. And so you got to ask yourself, you got to constantly ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me right now? What is the universe trying to tell me? If God's not your jam, that's okay. Just like, what's the universe trying to tell me? What is Mother Nature trying to tell me right now? What is whatever? What's the lesson I'm supposed to learn right now? Because as soon as you get that there are no mistakes, and that even on your worst day, there's a lesson to be learned. I was just talking with a friend of mine right before this call, and she was talking about her husband who had cancer, and he's like, they just took out a feeding tube. Like, it's hard. It is hard. Yeah. But she was telling me all the lessons that she's learned through it. And we were just saying that, like, she would not be given the challenge that she'd been placed with if she wasn't capable of handling it. This is one of the most strongest women I've ever met on planet Earth. And I would never wish something like that on her. But of all the people to handle it, I know it made her stronger. Yeah. And when you have that type of outlook, when you look for the lesson, a family member passed away, you have an issue with a child, you come down with something physically that's an issue, like there's a physical limitation or a mental limitation or a business limitation, or you had to file bankruptcy. and you say, what is this lesson designed to teach me? Maybe I need to be better with my numbers. Maybe I deserve to look at my spouse differently than I did before. Maybe it's a chance for me, because my kids are being so crazy and they're stressing me out. Maybe it's a chance for me to say, what am I needing to do as a parent in order to be the best version of myself? And when you look at yourself that way and you follow that formula, you take yourself out of the tailspin. You get yourself in motion, right? You say yes to more things that are around you, and you don't get derailed by the negative things that happen, and you look for the lessons. It will transform who you are and how you operate. And the last tip I'm going to give you is this, is never underestimate the seed that you plant today, what it will look like in 5 years, right? You know, you've heard that phrase before. The best time to plant an oak tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today, right? I said this the other day to my team internally, as I said, look, as a business owner, you are doing work now that you will reap the rewards from in 5 years. Don't worry about your money today. Your money today is a product of what you did 5 years ago as a business owner. So do the work you want today that you want to see the results from in 5 years. That's what business owners do, is they are constantly doing work for what they can see in the future. And that, if you're not a business owner and you're on here, make a small change in your life that'll make an impact on you in 5 years. And that will help create that change and create the direction. Holly, what was your biggest takeaway from today as we chatted about this for you, for what you got? What was your biggest takeaway? And everybody else in the chat, what was your biggest takeaway from today?
You know, when you were talking about 5 years ago and right before we jumped on here, 5 years ago.
It's true.
Yes! So it was like when we met,
You're totally
like when you're
right.
saying that, I was like,
holy crap.
I mean, and I have
That's
to,
really
I'm
crazy.
like,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And, you know, it brings a little emotion to me because like I was 5 years ago, I was wishing for the team that I have today. Like 5 years ago, that work that I did has given me.
This is 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So has given me the team and the relationships and the marriage and all of that.
So I got to tell the story because we know the story. Not everybody watching knows the story. So right before the call, I said, hey, Holly, I saw this thing that said 5 years ago. You see it on there. It said 5 years ago. And 5 years ago today, Holly decided on a whim to come and join me at a training in Lake Tahoe. And this is not a plug to like come and join me at a training, but feel free anytime you want. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Is that Holly came to a training in Lake Tahoe and there was like 15, 20 of us in a room. We're like, I think this could be cool. There's going to be good things. And now here we are 5 years later. And in 2 weeks, we're doing a training with over 271 people. That's so crazy to me. 271 people. In another couple months, we're probably going to be doing a training for about 500 people. And we train thousands of people now. And like the first 15, 18, whatever it was, 20 people that like somehow squeezed themselves in a room in Lake Tahoe and said, I hope this is going to be good. Yeah. It's massive. And it's crazy though, Cindy, Cindy, I said Cindy because I just saw Cindy's face on the picture. But for you, Holly, is like, it's crazy. So 5 years ago, you put yourself in a place that you were out of your comfort zone, fly into Lake Tahoe and like, we'll see if it works. And here it is 5 years later, and you're hosting a podcast with me. You're going to be training on stage with me in 2 weeks. And like, you're reaping the benefits of what happened to you 5 years ago from that one little decision to jump on a plane and go to a cool city. What a fun story to talk about as we wrap the podcast. That's awesome, Holly. Thank you for doing it. By the way, thank you, Jackie, for weighing in here too. She said, make things happen. Don't hesitate to reach out to people who can provide you ways to achieve your dreams. Also, manifest positive thoughts and achieve your dreams. Yeah, thank you, Jackie. Insightful. Thank you for saying that. And if you thought today's podcast was valuable, do me a favor and type value in the podcast. I want to make sure you get it and tag somebody that you think needs to plant the seed today that in 5 years will make them a different person. And stick around. Join us for other podcasts. Every Friday, we do a brand new podcast on Beautiful Minds. Can't wait to see you guys on another podcast soon. And check us out on all the socials, all the channels. Do what you got. And I'd love to see you and hang out with you more. And maybe you'll jump on a plane and come hang with me one day. Thanks, Holly, for being on today. And I can't wait to see what we both do 5 years in the future. Bye for now.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. If you want to get access to our 7-day Beautiful Minds Challenge, you can either comment below and just say 7-day, and I'll shoot you the information so you can get immediate access to that, or find me on any social media and just send me the message 7-day, and I'll make sure I get that out to you right away. And if you really enjoyed today's show, it would do me a huge favor if you went online, whether it was Spotify, Pandora, or iTunes, or any sort of podcast platform that you can find us on, and search for The Beautiful Minds Show, subscribe to our channel, and then make sure you give us a rating. Every time you give us a rating, it helps us get more eyeballs on our show and help more people have a more beautiful mind. Thanks again for joining us.